And we're back on episode 4 of the Dirt Beers podcast. It's just me and Jonathan. And we're going to go over the recent Gateway Dirt Nationals weekend, cover the 3 nights and what happened to our picks from the last episode, and just go over all the excitement that we had this weekend. But, I mean, basically, we'll start it off with saying that I think we cursed our picks, Jonathan.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I felt like I had no feel for it as is. I mean, we were kind of all over it at times, but especially Thursday and Friday night, the curse felt very real.
Yeah, we went into that first heat race on Thursday, and Overton goes out in heat 1 and breaks going into 1 and 2. It was only a couple laps in, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. So Jonathan's pick
Curse is alive and well.
was done in heat 1 for the night, and then I believe he tried to come out and run a B main, but really didn't go anywhere. Then my pick, Turbo, goes out in his heat race, gets a flat left rear, typical, and there's other guys absolutely junking race cars and not getting flats, but Tyler gets a flat, and that ends his night. He did not try to go out for a B main. So both our picks for the late models down the drain on night 1.
Yeah, that was pretty rough. I mean, I guess the announcer jinx works even for podcasting, but man, that was about as bad as we could have gotten. And I didn't even feel like there was that much carnage on the Thursday night. So the fact that both our guys not getting to the end of the night or at least, not really doing much if they did try to get into a B, it just was not a great way to start. And it didn't really seem to go much better in the modifieds.
No, I know. Modifieds is just same kind of thing. It wasn't like a ton of crashing, but people were just braking or getting flats and just ending their nights early. But I mean, all in all, it was good racing on Thursday. We have the late model A main winner was Mike Spatola. I'd really never heard of Mike Spatola before this Thursday night, but he led green to checkered, led all the laps. Had some pressure from behind, but never really had too much of a challenge. Just had to wade through those cautions and make it to the end.
Yeah, it was weird. Thursday was definitely a weird one, I thought. And again, having a kind of left field winner. I wanted to, I think I'm still probably focused. We'll get there more on Saturday for sure. But what did you think of the racing? You mentioned the racing itself, but what did you think of the racetrack and the racing surface Thursday night? How it held up for night 1?
I thought it held up amazing for night 1. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, it seemed like the track was rock solid. There wasn't many bumps or grooves or anything going on. There was a little bit of a nice cushion they could lean up on the top side if they wanted. But other than that, the track was super smooth, very raceable, top and bottom. Some guys could even make the middle work. So, I think for night 1, the track was amazing. And then it just, a smooth surface like that, especially on a small racetrack, gives good racing. So, like, the cars aren't jumping around all over the place. Guys aren't junking cars all over the place. So, I thought for night 1, they did a really good job with the track.
Agreed for sure. Friday night, I think you hit one on Friday?
This was our only, out of the both of us, we only got one right. And it was RTJ winning the late model feature on Friday night, which was what I picked. But, I mean, Friday night, there was a lot going on. RTG wins the late models. Trevor Neville wins the modified A main. Then you got, I'm going to pronounce this guy's last name wrong, but Darren Wessinger, I believe, decides to go right through the catch fence and out of the park in the late models. So a lot of fence repair going on Friday night.
Yeah, that was a big one. That was a pretty scary incident too. I was kind of like, yeah, you almost don't even think they can get wound up enough for something like that to happen. And of course, there was about 10 million "you can't park there" memes that I saw pop up.
Oh, yeah.
However, I did see the Dirt Beers one first. I
Had to capitalize on it,
Absolutely.
Yeah, classic Charlie Memford from a couple years ago. You can't park there. Had to put it up there for Darren. Obviously he was okay. Car, not so much, but cars can be replaced. People can't. So, but other than that, I mean, and hats off to the Gateway crew there. Like, those guys got it down pat on fence repair and getting cars out of weird situations when they crashed. So they did a fantastic job with that. Another interesting thing that happened, we had Dakota Smith in the late models. I'm going to say he set the new on-foot track record for the Gateway Dirt Nationals, at least for the front stretch, where he got in a little accident on the front stretch and decided he was going to run down to the other end of the speedway and confront, didn't get the guy's name who he was going after, but leaned right in the car and threw, I guess you can call them punches. I don't know. Didn't really seem like, more like he was just trying to rip the guy's visor off his helmet. But, that was funny. It got reposted on Barstool Sports the next day. So that was pretty cool thing for dirt racing in general, to get Barstool Sports to repost your stuff. But that was pretty interesting. I don't know if you saw that, Jonathan. What's your thoughts on it?
I thought it was pretty funny, and I saw it on Barstool as well. So that was kind of, you never want to be like in the wrong light blowing up, but at the same time, all publicity is good publicity, especially for a kind of wintertime motorsport event when the only major stuff that was left going on was Formula One, and obviously a very different world than the Gateway Dirt Nationals, right? So I mean, it kind of had to happen, right? I always feel like there's somebody who gets real upset and does something. I can't remember anything specifically too much like that at the Dome in the past, but
I
it
think
feels like there's always going to be some hurt feelings at the Dome.
yeah, that's the first time I think I've seen at the Dome. I mean, I could be wrong. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody get out of the car and run to another car and start attacking somebody. And I mean, like, it was funny. Like, you got to make fun of the guy, but I don't know what. Like, he was in the cockpit of this guy's car for a good 30 seconds before anybody even come over and tried to pull him out or like stop him. The camera guy there
That's what
from
shocked me.
The camera guy from Flow is standing there just filming the whole thing, and nobody's coming over to pull this guy out of the cockpit.
Yeah, I'm like, did the race director not see this maneuver? Like, not one on-track official? Like, how did this get missed? Like, I mean, I appreciate letting them, boys have at it, I suppose, but like, come on. Like, I feel like with everything, especially dirt racing, I feel like usually those things get broken up pretty quickly these days. But
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it. I was like,
yeah.
all right, I guess this is I'm trying to think if I'm like, what other, have they ever had any big boxing matches in the Dome before? All I
Uh,
can ever, I think the only thing I can think about happening in that stadium is I think that's where like Dennis Anderson lawn darted a gravedigger and hurt himself back in like 2000.
yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
That's when I think of that Dome. I don't even think of anything football related. I know there's definitely some great football history at that place, but I'm just like monster trucks and the Gateway Dirt Nationals. That's all I
yeah,
know.
yeah. So okay, so moving on from Friday, we get into Saturday, and great races on Saturday as well. The energy unmatched, at least even through the TV, was just absolutely insane. But your late model winner goes back to back, B Shep with the late model win, and then Trevor Neville sweeps his prelim night and takes the Saturday win.
Yep. Yeah, that was really cool. And I kind of started my day watching pretty much almost all of the YouTube stream of the preliminary stuff, and it was chaotic. And by that point, I felt like the track had really roughed up, and I don't think that the preliminary races helped in any sort of way. All the non-qualifiers and Bs and last chance, all the stuff that they ran.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like that facility got real torn up on Saturday, and I think that really played a hand into what we saw. I mean, heck, even Bobby Pierce was closing in and probably might have had a shot at that thing at the end,
Mm-hmm.
and then I think it was, I can't remember how many laps to go. Maybe it was 8. He took that really big bounce and got like all 4 wheels off the ground, and I think
Yeah.
going into 1.
Yep.
And I don't think the car was the same as that after that. He was able to get close before braking, coming basically to the checkered.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what you thought, Beef, like compared to past years. Like, to me, it seemed extra rough this year, but maybe it's just recency bias.
I mean, that's Gateway. It always, on at least to Saturday, there's always going to be some roughness in the track. And I mean, I don't think it's been as bad as some other years, but it definitely had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
character. And they were out there, yeah, bouncing around like crazy. That picture I posted today of Pierce Bobby, he was 4 wheels off the ground, like just trucking. So
Yeah.
that it was a great race. It's always fun to watch when the track is like that. But we had a couple things happen before the races even started. The packer wagon decided to break in half on the track
Mm-hmm.
and fall off the tractor. So that was a little bit of a what the hell's going on here? But they got it off and got the track fixed up. But I just want to say too, the styrofoam on the corner of the jersey barriers on the inside, People's Champ for Saturday. They probably replace it, I think, about 6 times in the same spot. I mean, hopefully they. I don't know how many they had left because a lot of them got destroyed, so they might have been running low. But I'm pretty sure the Gateway officials will have maybe a couple more on hand for next year.
I was gonna say, or like some kind of like alternate
Yes.
source that they can be put there. Like I don't know what you can use besides styrofoam, but you probably should come up with something maybe a little bit more durable.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can.
Yeah. But and then we move on to the non-qualifiers race to start the night. Both non-qualifiers races in the late models both time out because of accidents and having to replace styrofoam. But
Yeah. I
yeah,
was watching the comment section on YouTube while I was doing that. I was watching the live stream, and the comment section was just eating this event alive. But at the same time, there were some defenders of it as well, which I appreciated.
yeah,
Anytime anybody who's going to be a fan that's tuned in is going to be able to step up for what they care about and what they're watching, that's always nice. But
mm-hmm.
I was so I was just killing myself laughing about, I take another drink. We got to have another beer, crack another beer. We got another caution. So they're all setting over-unders and everybody's just hammering the over. It
Yeah,
doesn't matter what alternate line you set for it in the comment section. It was pretty entertaining stuff, I have to say. And kind of unfortunate because if you're there, especially, like,
mm-hmm.
I know really the momentum came from the opening ceremonies and everything leading into what was going on. But for
Mm-hmm.
me, it really felt like the big thing was this really rough way to start the night off, kind of killed the vibe, or I don't know. It just sucks when you have so many cautions and races timing out and everything that happened kind of in the early portion of the night,
Yeah,
because it also kind of ruined some storylines. Like it was pretty hard to come from the back if you only ever get like 1 to 2 laps of green flag racing at a time.
yeah. That's another thing at Gateway. Like you just gotta wait the cautions out, and sometimes they go in your favor, sometimes they don't. But it was great racing all around. Another thing that happened that was kind of funny: Cody Summers' golf cart got hit on the infield. I don't think he was ever expecting that to happen, but late model comes spinning through the infield and smoked his golf cart, and he got out of the way just in time. So that was another good one. Um, and then we had Logan. I'm gonna butcher his last name. Logan Villozo. I'm not sure. That might not be right, but roast me in the comments if I am wrong. Uh, he also decides he's gonna park where he's not allowed and send her through the fence and out of the park as well. And this time he lands upside down.
Yeah, that one was actually kind of scary. Like again, it's one thing to see the car go up and into the fence, but to get fully, rotated like that, I didn't see that coming in the slightest in any sort of way. I didn't think that was going to be a thing that could happen
Mm-hmm.
here at such a small short track. I know we've seen it in the past and we've seen stranger things happen, but I
Mm-hmm.
really thought, I'm like, okay, it's got to be, no, we'll be fine.
You think? I mean, I've always wondered. I mean, you look at the fencing they have, and I mean, I haven't seen it in person, but it does look a little bit thin. I would say, I guess, like
Mm-hmm.
something could go through it pretty easily. Which it sounds like they did say that they're gonna work on improving it for next year and see if they can figure something out to stop cars from fully going through the catch fence. Which
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll get it figured out and come back with something better for next year. But it was still entertaining to watch. That's all part of it at Gateway is the fence repair. That's part of the show. Um,
Anything surprising for you in terms of drivers not making it out of their events or making the Saturday mains in particular?
I mean, I was, I was surprised to not see Tyler Erb make it. He's been pretty good there every year he's gone. Just bad luck this year. But I don't know. I mean, it wasn't. I can't say there was anybody I was really like, wow, I cannot believe this guy is not in the feature. Like you had all your normal. You had your Tyler Carpenter. He's always in the feature. Shepard. I all the guys that I thought would be in there, like Nick Hoffman. All them
Mm-hmm.
guys were in the show, so it wasn't really wasn't anybody I didn't think of. What about you?
Herb was the one, I guess, as well, being a former winner of the event. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of who I had circled. But when I was looking through like the results of the race, you got Pierce up there, RTJ in third, Hoffman brought it home fifth. Davenport was running well early in
Mm-hmm.
the night. Overton, he went up from 20th to 14th. Not the weekend that Overton wanted, but enough still to say that he was there and in the show. So
Yeah.
I think if we're talking surprises, the only thing that was surprising, and maybe it's not surprising at all to some, but it probably is surprising to the two guys on this show because we talked about it, is the reunion goes well for Brandon Shepard.
Yeah. I mean, he had speed all weekend and just brought that thing to the front. I know in his interview he said it was a car that Richards had been holding on to that he had raced a number of years ago. So they threw it together. So it was a car chassis at least that he was familiar with. Um, and I mean, they gelled well for the first time out again, and Brandon got it done.
So does that change your expectations going into next year at all with this?
I don't know. I mean, Gateway's a whole animal on its own. So
Mm-hmm.
you get out to the real world of dirt racing and the real tracks. Not that Gateway's not a real track, but get out to Florida and Speed Weeks, and I think Speed Weeks is always a good tale to tell how the team's doing and how your season is going to start off at least. So I think if the Rocket One can come out and win a couple races at Speed Weeks, they're going to be looking good for the Lucas Oil Tour this year.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a lot is going to be learned. I think Speed Weeks for that B5 whole Rocket organization, Rocket team, and I mean, again, it's so hard to say. Like the dome, it's like it doesn't. It's not that it doesn't mean anything, but it's so different when you're on an actual facility where there's different clay. You're not wearing the track down to a concrete surface hiding underneath it, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. You want to get into Carpenter and Super Shep getting into it after the
Yeah,
checkers?
so Brandon goes out, wins the race, and
Mm-hmm.
then his dad, Super Shep, and Tyler Carpenter get into it after the checkered flag. Tyler spins out Super Shep. They start just bumping and banging into each other on the track. They're beating each other on the way off the track and through the underground to the pit area. And then they get in the pit area, and it wasn't Tyler. Tyler didn't go over to the guy to Shep's trailer. It was, I guess, a crew guy went over and started reaming out Shep Jr. And they got into a little physical altercation in the pit area, got broke up, and then all of a sudden you see Shep Sr. out on the front stretch celebrating with Brandon for the win. They did a little interview with him, said, "Hey, what happened back there? Like, what happened on the track?" And he says that it wasn't even him. It was Hudson O'Neill that spun out Tyler Carpenter, and Tyler thought it was Shep, and just went after him. So, I mean, it's hard to tell when you're in the car, I guess. But like especially from behind, you don't know who spun you out. You're just taking your best guess, right? But I don't know. I never like seeing that stuff. I mean, it is Gateway, and that's all part of it. But I don't like seeing cars crashing into each other and spinning each other out after the checkered flag, especially because when the checkered flag flies, like there's photographers and stuff coming out there, people coming out there to go to victory lane. Like somebody gets hit, it's not going to be good.
No, it's not. And for me, I love seeing two drivers who have a disagreement on the racetrack go ahead and have a bit of a man conversation after the fact. That's all fine in games. I always say if it's going to escalate to fighting, bring them out to the front stretch. We'll set the octagon up. We'll put the barriers out, whatever we got to do, close them in. Boys have at it. And, if we're going to let it happen in hockey, I don't see why you can't let it happen in other sports and whatever else. And I guess that's a whole other conversation. But to me, I'm 100% with you. Like, just leave the race cars out of it. And you have to be aware of your surroundings. There's not, as angry as you are, there's so many other people, and especially like a place like the Dome where the confines are so tight already.
Yeah.
A lot of times I was watching over the weekend, and I'm sure, like, if you're down there and you're walking in some of those areas, there's more room to work with than maybe it appears on a stream on your TV. But it's tight down there, man. I just would not be messing around with that sort of stuff. And this being kind of its own standalone event, not really like a tour series, it's hard to apply any kind of discipline or
Hmm.
anything, right? There's nothing, I don't think, that's going to come from that. But obviously I'd like to see something, laid down. I don't know if there's any kind of talking to you can give them, whatever, but
Yeah.
going forward, I think you got to give them a little bit of a, hey, it's not cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure they get something said like it just it's part of the show, but it's also just dangerous all
Hmm.
around. So I'm sure the team at Gateway they'll get it sorted out, and for next year, remind them guys in the drivers meeting and be like, hey, this can't happen again. But speaking of next year, they announced on Saturday that the late model feature is now going to pay 50,000 to win next year, so up 20 grand, and it's
Hmm.
going to be 3 grand to take the green in the late model feature for next year on the Saturday night.
And I think deservedly so, man. I mean, that is becoming a really big event, and it should pay like a really big event. Like, would you call it crown jewel status? I don't know if it's at that level yet, but with a 50 grand payday, it's definitely approaching it.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's definitely I wouldn't call it a crown jewel, but it's definitely one of the major events of the year, late model races. Like
Hmm.
it's its own thing, and Justin from Dirt Tracker explained it pretty well that it's not like a series race or anything. So like these guys aren't going there for points; they're going there to win this race and win the money and win the trophy. And it's set right in the perfect time. It's got a perfect spot in the schedule. It's the last race for these guys before they rebuild for next year, and they just go all out, which is awesome. And have a $50,000 payday on the line will make them drive even harder, which is puts on a better show and throws in a little more drama, but that's always good.
Last thing I had on Gateway 2 is I wondered what your opinion is on bringing the midgets back to it.
I saw that. I don't know. I think the way the track gets, not that the midgets don't run on rough tracks, but it just when they were there, it seemed like there was a lot of flipping going on and just
Hmm.
like I just don't think midgets belong at that race. I think they got it down good right now with the late models and modifieds. Keep it at the two classes, and keep trying to make it even bigger and bigger and bigger. Like now we're up to 50 grand. Maybe it goes up to 60,000 the next year or something happens. But it's it's definitely becoming an event where these guys are going in there one for the money, but they're going in there to say I won at the Dome at the Gateway Dirt Nationals and say that you crossed the finish line first at one of these events.
Yeah, I think that's really important to a lot of these guys, and I agree with you. I think the midgets have their Chili Bowl, they got Tulsa Shootout, that sort of stuff. Save it for that. They don't need to get into this one. And I think the other thing too is, for the show sake of the show. I mean, eh, I feel like things were already kind of running behind due to the preliminary stuff, even with the races timing out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You add a whole extra class in there, especially a class that's prone to flipping, which requires more involvement in terms of safety precautions and getting drivers taken care of and flip back over, all that sort of stuff. I don't think people want to go to the Dome and sit there for 7 hours. And I don't know that the midget shows when they had them pre-COVID were that long, but I mean, the way things have been going in racing, things are usually, depending on the race director, getting longer before they're getting shorter.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they got a good formula right now with the two classes and the way they run everything. It really wasn't. I mean, other than when there was some big crashes, like taking the fence down and stuff, the show moved along pretty good.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think they got a good formula. They just stick with it, make improvements on little things. They did announce that they're doing a new next year is going to be a different system for drivers to sign up to go to the race. I think it's going to be more of like you put it in, and Cody Summers and them and the team will decide who's going to show up. And if you get an invite, you're in. If you don't, then try again next year. But I think that'll kind of weed out some of the guys that like, you always got some of the guys there that are like, they're there to say they ran, but they're also just getting in the way and causing more cautions and more time delays, where like the guys that are running full time are the bigger guys that are running all the time, are running a little bit cleaner and keeping the show moving.
Yeah, I agree completely. I just think they've got things are going well as they are. It's growing as it is. It's becoming, like I said, it's verging on that crown jewel status. Just keep it the way it is. Keep riding the momentum, and then if things change, you can make adjustments down the road. But I think for now, I like the way things have been going. You want to touch on, before we get to the interview portion of the show, you want to jump on here and talk the Super DIRTCar Series, which announced their schedule?
Yep. So Super DIRTCar Series announces their schedule. I believe is it 19 races?
I think so. There's still one event to be announced. They have not confirmed it yet. They haven't said the track or when or where, but we do know it's June 4th.
It's 25 races and then the two TBD, so 26.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that TBA June 3rd. They're in Pennsylvania the day before, so who knows where that's going to go necessarily.
Yeah. Big Diamond the night before, so you would think they would keep it somewhere in PA. Not sure where. I mean,
well, that's because I'm looking through. I don't see any other PA representation. So
that's their only stop in Pennsylvania. So it's hard to say where they're gonna go. But the schedule starts out. They're going to New Egypt Speedway first, March 29th. Can-Am Speedway, April 12th. Then we go to Albany Saratoga Speedway, April 18th. That ends out April for the mods. And then again to May, Weedsport on the 25th of May, Thunder Mountain on the 26th. And then they head to that PA date at Big Diamond, June 3rd. And then we have the TBA on June 4th. Head into New York State at Lebanon Valley on June 19th. And then head to Cornwall up here in Canada on June 29th. Mohawk, which is right across the border, the next day on June 30th. Then they got the July 4th weekend race at Land of Legends on July 3rd. Weed Sports Speedway July 26th. And then we're back up into Canada, Autodrome Drummond, July 28th and 29th, 2-day show up in Quebec. And then they go from Quebec, they come back down into Ontario, go to the Brockville Speedway for July 30th. Then they head over to our buddies at Ransomville on August 13th, Weedsport August 17th, Brewerton August 18th, Land of Legends August 19th. That's a good little 3-race stretch there. Or 4-race, sorry. Fulton on August 20th. And then they take a couple days off, and then they head to Lebanon Valley again on the August 28th. And then they're off till September 5th at Can-Am Speedway, September 6th at Weedsport. And then back to Albany Saratoga is September 20th. And then we hit up Dirt Week October 6th through the 11th at Oswego. And then head to Brockville October 17th before heading down to North Carolina for the World Finals November 5th through 8th.
A couple things that I wanted to point out. First were the qualifiers for Super Dirt Week. That first trip to Lebanon, June 19th, as well as Cornwall. Weed Sport, the 2 nights in Quebec, also Super Dirt Week qualifier events. Weed Sport again, September 6th, and Albany Saratoga, September 20th are your qualifiers. And Lebanon Valley again on the 28th of August. I missed that one. I'm sorry. The other thing I thought was kind of interesting is 2 trips to Brockville, which I know they went later in the year for Brockville as a makeup for their rainout over the summer this past year in 2024.
Yeah.
And obviously, I guess they saw enough attendance-wise or however folks just felt like it was successful enough that they're making 2 trips to Brockville, which is pretty awesome. I enjoyed that speedway a lot when I went up and covered a Super DIRTCar Series race event back in 2023 there. Super interesting that that race or that particular facility is getting 2 shots at it. And the other thing I thought was kind of interesting was I don't remember if this was the case last year, but 4 trips to Weed Sport on the schedule. That seems I think that's
Yeah,
got to be higher than it's been the last couple of years, right?
I think it was 3 last year, so I think they've added in one extra one for this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Weed Sport always puts on a great show for the Super DIRTCar Series, so that's their track, like critiques to the big block modifieds. So it's always a
Definitely.
good show at Weed Sport. You know, hitting up Albany a couple times. Albany always a good show. If you want to see these big blocks at speed, probably the fastest mile an hour that they go throughout the area, you're going to want to hit up the races at Lebanon Valley. Closest thing that was really left to the mile at Syracuse, and that's where you want to see these guys go fast.
Absolutely. So I'm optimistic that we're getting another great championship battle. It's going to come down to the end. I think ultimately what would be awesome as well is having a multi-car battle, and by
Mm-hmm.
that I mean 3 or 4 different drivers heading to Charlotte with a chance at it. I think that would be really, really interesting to see. And ultimately, I think this schedule is definitely one that could potentially give race fans and give us media folks that opportunity. I think the other thing with that is too the amount of tracks that are repeating. You know, obviously one way to look at it is that if one guy figures out a certain track or facility or whatever, and they kind of hammer that home and run away with it every time they show up. Or the other way to look at it is if somebody starts out at a weed sport and runs away with the first event there, you're giving the rest of the field 3 other shots to catch up and figure it out, right?
Yeah.
So I like the schedule.
Yeah, I think it's laid out very good. It's all the normal places they go. There's really no new spots on the schedule. And I mean, I've been to every single one of these racetracks on the schedule, and it's always been good racing every time I have gone. So, and like we said in the first episode ever of the Dirt Beers podcast, when the racing season gets going, me and Jonathan are gonna have our picks weekly for each one of the major series, and we're gonna keep track of points, and we're gonna go through the whole season and see who comes out on top as the Dirt Beers champion in
Mm-hmm.
between the hosts. And then we're gonna maybe try and figure out a way to get the audience involved in picks throughout the week as well. So stay tuned for that, and that'll be coming in later episodes once the season gets started. But yeah, all around good schedule, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I wanted to throw one more kind of, I don't want to say like it's not going to be a full on fantasy layout, but I wanted to run something by you. We talked about in that spot on the schedule, there's a TBA.
Yeah.
Um, I think dream scenario for us two guys would be to see the Super DIRTCar Series return to Maryville Speedway, and that's around the time that we had our Ivan Little Memorial event north of the border. That was really special this past season. I don't think it's going to happen with the lack of dirt sanctioning for Merrittville. But since they're in Pennsylvania, is there a Pennsylvania track that jumps out to you that would be kind of fun as a
I mean,
potential announcement for that TBA?
I have one in mind for sure.
What's that?
Bring them back to the Lernerville Speedway, boys.
Ooh, okay.
Went there with Matt every Friday for years. That place has a soft spot in my heart forever. I love that racetrack, and the big blocks run there weekly. I'm not sure if they're dirt sanctioned. I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, the racing at that track is unbelievable to watch in person.
All right. What if I pitch you, they're in Pennsylvania. What about Port Royal?
I mean, Port Royal's good too. I've been there too for the speed showcase for the short track super series. It's also another track where these guys get up to speed and are moving, um, and puts on great racing. That could also be another cool spot for them to land. But I mean, you never know. It's hard to say with all the freaking sanctioning stuff that goes on
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes. Um,
Tire rules too, right? And it's like,
yeah,
is this
like
track a American Racing Tire or
yeah,
whatever versus Hoosier, and right?
yeah.
So
So we'll just have to wait and see.
yeah, we'll see. I'm interested to see what that final announcement's going to be on the Super DIRTCar Series schedule, but ultimately, I think there's at least maybe 4 races that I'm going to try to get out to and attend
Hmm.
and cover. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm sure I'm gonna get out to a couple. Maybe try to get to the Weed Sport races if I can. It's always love going there. And I mean, if they were to go to Lernerville Speedway on that June 4th, you never know. You might see me there too.
Nice. I like it. I like it. You want to get
Sweet.
to Landon?
Yeah. So next up on the show, we got Landon Crawley. We're going to talk everything with him about his first year on the tour with the World Outlaws and just get to know him a little bit. So hopefully you stick around, and here's Landon. All right, here we go. Episode 5 of the Dirt Beers podcast. This week, our guest is Landon Crawley. Now, technically, I guess, former driver of the Jason Sides 7S, but we're going to get into that and what Landon's going to have going on in 2025. But also joining me, my co-host, as per normal, Jonathon Howe. Thanks for coming on, Landon.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, buddy. Basically, we always get the episode started with a little bit of background on our drivers and the guests that we have on. So if you want to give us like a quick little rundown on how you started in racing, what got you into it, and bringing up to around present day.
Yeah, I started racing in go-karts. Of course, my dad raced sprint cars for 30 years, so I was pretty much born into it. Raced go-karts for a couple years. Started racing micros when I was 9, ran them for a couple years. Started racing sprint cars when I was 12, which is not a common thing.
That's pretty crazy.
Raced 305s for a few years, raced 360s for a few years, and then this year was my first year in 410.
And what was it like being so young and jumping into the kart? Like, I can't imagine that pathway. Like, it just feels like it's such a massive overtaking, even in a 305, to jump in and go race a sprint car, a full-size sprint car at 12 years old.
It was weird. The weirdest thing about a sprint car for me when I was that young was like the suspension and how much it moves, how much the car weighs. Like the power, none of that was that crazy because you get used to that fast, and the like how much everything moves around and how much you're getting thrown around was the biggest curveball for me. And then I'm not gonna lie, I sucked the first year. I was terrible. I ran good one time, running good and flipped. So after that, it all went downhill really fast. But other than that, it all kind of started to come a lot easier. You get comfortable and it starts to feel natural. So, after that first year got out of the way, everything was all right.
Nice. So we got your 2024 season stats here. You had 68 features, started 2 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and finished 10th in the World Outlaw points for this season. What was it like that first year on the road, and it with the Outlaws? You start out your season in Volusia. First time, I believe it was your first time ever in a 410, right?
Well, it would have been my second night. I ran a 2-day race with Jay last year. Got about half the night done the first night and broke a motor. Then the second night ran the full night. And then, so Volusia was pretty much my first race in a 410. I mean, I had no experience in it. I think we tested once in Florida. And other than that, like it was completely green. And I mean, it's been a good year. I mean, I had a lot more struggles and I had good runs, but it's part of it. If I had any takeaways from the year, it'd be qualifying. I feel like I can qualify good, and then I struggled racing, but I mean, I feel like that's just part of it. That comes time. So
yeah,
I mean, it was a good year.
Yeah. What about that first night? You went out at Volusia and you set quick time with the Outlaws in your first appearance. What was that feeling like? And just run us through that night.
Dude, that was such a weird night. I mean, I knew I was going to be decent in qualifying because I qualified good the first 14 races. Like by decent, I meant like 15th quick, not quick time. But yeah, everything that night kind of fell into place. I was the first car out, and it went by so easy. And really, every other night at Volusia just was kind of the same way. Everything was going really smooth. I mean, up until the feature, everything went super smooth. I mean, it all felt easy for me. I mean, it was honestly a perfect night. I mean, anybody else that would have had that night should have won. I just, I've never been in the situation I was in to start on the front of an outlaw heat race, and you have to back up the night too. So I mean, it was really awesome, and it didn't feel real because like you leave Florida and everything kind of comes back to reality. You're good at one place, but you have to be good at 80 other racetracks too. You can't be good at one track all year. So, pretty much right when we left Florida, it kind of came back to reality.
Well, you mentioned being good at qualifying and posting those quick lap times. Talk about how, I guess, the difficulty of once you start up front, either in a heat or even in a feature event, how hard is it to hold off a pack, especially on the World of Outlaws tour, when you've got so many guys racing around you with so much experience, so much knowledge about how to approach a pass, how to set something up, when you're almost constantly on defense because you've got this great track position to start?
I think people underestimate it a lot. I mean, you go watch your local guys, they look really good. Then you go watch the local guys race against the outlaw guys, and not going to say that they look terrible, but they look nothing like what they do when they're racing with the local guys. So for me, that's kind of what I expected, was to be racing. You don't realize how much faster these guys are until you do it. And, that was like my first expectation, as the first impression of it. So, going into it, I didn't know what to expect, but it probably helped me a lot starting at the front, because, when you're in the lead, you don't pay attention to the guys behind you. You're just focused on what's in front of you and really just trying to finish the race when you're in that situation. So I was pretty nervous about it, but it wasn't too bad because I knew I didn't have to pass cars, and I kind of knew I wasn't going to be around many cars. Blue's just fast, and I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to pass there. So I wasn't really worried about it, but it was kind of just in the back of my mind, like, who all is behind me, because I know every heat race I was in was always pretty stacked. So it's just a weird, eerie feeling that you don't really get to feel often.
And Landon, being a young guy, you're only 16. When are you turning 17?
January.
January. I'm a January birthday too. Nice. What day?
22nd. What about you?
16th. 16th. Close, but being 16, everybody always talks about a tour, whether it be Outlaws or High Limit, how grueling it is to be on the road and run these tours and make every race and just up and down highways all over the country. What was it like being 16 on the road with the Outlaws?
Dude, it's, that's the hardest part of everything. You leave everything you have for a year. I mean, I came home twice for a week at a time, if that. So, I could come home during the Texas part, the very first part of the year, just because, we'd stop at home because it's on the way, drop me off, and they go back to the shop. But right after that, I mean, once we got into Missouri and all those places, I was gone for the year. Then I'd come back on July 4th, and then Knoxville was, or a week right before Knoxville was the only time I'd come home. So that's the toughest part. You leave all your family, you leave all your friends. I mean, you kind of just got to dedicate your life to what you're doing, and it's hard to give it your all the time, because you get beat down. It really sucks when you suck, and it sucks when you suck consistently. It's really hard to stay motivated and just keep pushing, doing your best every single night, and it's tough, but it's just part of it. You got to do it, and just got to adapt to it.
Well, you're definitely going to be better for it starting at such a young age and getting after it as soon as you are. I got to ask, you're mentioning coming home only maybe for a couple of days here and there. What's home life like when you are there? Do you even have to worry about school, or are you doing like some kind of online courses? Like what's a 16-year-old chasing his outlaw dreams do regarding high school?
Yeah, I do online school, and I've actually done it for like 5 years. The COVID year was my first year doing it, and at the time, the school that I went to was the same as my actual school, and we couldn't go. So I had some teachers that, were really fond of one political side. Well, it wasn't exactly the same side that, we agree on. They forced their opinions on 12-year-old kids, and that I've always been pretty mature for my age, so I could realize it. And then we were going to a racetrack. I had to do a class on the way there, and once my dad found out about that, as it was wraps, I wasn't going back there. So now I do an online program, and super easy. I do a flex schedule, so I have classes like once a month, and it's super easy.
Awesome. I got a two-parter here for you, kind of going into the theme of being a younger guy on the tour. First part is, has any driver kind of reached out and taken you under the wing? Has there been anybody who's been kind of able to lend a hand, lend an ear, or maybe just be some kind of mentor figure to you on the tour so far?
Yeah, absolutely. I become pretty close with Buddy, and obviously Jay and Donnie are basically best friends. We park by Don every week, so getting pretty close with those two. Other than that, everybody else is kind of doing their own thing. You have Sheldon and Gravel that are always next to each other. Then other than that, it's me, Craig, and Don park next to each other basically every week, and those two have probably become the two that I become closest with. When we went to South Dakota, we all stayed together. Well, us and Craig stayed together. So yeah, it's been nice. I mean, you get people that have done it for a super long time. Craig started when he was my age, so it's nice to have somebody like him to not necessarily guide you, but give you advice. And even when we go to South Dakota, we stay with Dave Lunstra, and then of course TK drives for him. So I get some healthy advice from TK. He tells you things you probably don't want to know, and tells you things you actually need to know. So I've gotten plenty of good people around me this year.
And second part to that is, has any driver come up to you and maybe chewed you out for something on the racetrack or a move you pulled?
No, surprisingly not. I haven't really done anything too bad. I know Charlotte, I kind of chopped gravel, and that was unfortunate because I'm not going to lie, I thought it was Emerson, and me and Emerson had some friendly beef. I try and beat Emerson every week, and I don't know if he feels the same, but yeah, that was probably the only thing that's really happened this year.
Nice. So, you talk about your 2024 year. You partner up with Jason Sides and Sides Motorsports for the year. What was it like, running for Jason? It's such an iconic guy on the Outlaw Tour and an iconic car, the 7S. Just give us a rundown of what it was like going up and down the road with Jason all year.
Oh, it was good. A lot of people look at Jay as the guy that parties all the time, and that's really not what it was. We have fun, but it's not every day. We have to work. You have to race. So no, it was good. I mean, he's done it his whole life, basically. I mean, the last almost 30 years. So, really, I don't think there was a better guy that I could have raced for my first year, especially having no experience traveling or really anything like that. So, yeah, it was super nice to have Jay. Of course, Jimmy was always there. Jimmy's kind of turned into my older brother. We sleep in the same truck. We're super close. So, no, it's been good. I've had a lot of healthy relationships.
Yeah, it's awesome to see that you've got this kind of place to establish yourself, and you've got a place where you can go and kind of, I guess, grow and learn. It doesn't seem like, speaking to you and thinking about that season, it doesn't feel like you necessarily made a lot of mistakes, but there's obviously been some growing pains. What maybe was the high point though for you? Was it that quick time at Volusia? Is there something else that kind of jumps off the page to you when you reflect on this year, where you're like, okay, that's something I can draw a lot of confidence on and can take with me forward into my career?
Yeah, I mean, Volusia was obviously high. At quick time, I was in the dash every single night. I could run up front for a little bit and then, make a lot of stupid mistakes that I feel like I've learned from now. But, the bit like, I feel like the highest part of my year was kind of that early California swing, the end of Houston's. I feel like I was racing my best. I felt like I was at my best. And I wasn't super happy with the results I was getting, but they were also some of the biggest races that I went to with Houston's, and Eldora and California tracks threw me for the biggest curveball I've ever seen in my life. Then run a national open, making the A there. I didn't make a single A in PA other than the national open. So, the end of the year was, I'm not going to say it was my best, but it was definitely better than the beginning of the year for me.
Nice. So when we talk about, highs and lows and stuff, what were some of the, being the first year on the tour full time? What was it like getting to run your first Knoxville Nationals and some of these marquee events that are larger than life?
It was cool. I mean, probably my favorite race this year was Williams Grove. I'm not going to lie. I hated racing there. Sucked. I'm not going to lie. I suck in PA. I don't like it yet. It's, you got to race there to, enjoy it. So, yeah, I mean, National Open just has a really cool atmosphere. There's a ton of people there. There's a really good race cars there. For me, it was one of the hardest races this year. And then I really liked Houston's as well, the second trip, obviously. But I met a lot of really cool people there and got to spend time with some really cool people. And then, of course, Knoxville. Almost won a heat race there till Darren Pittman took that away from me from eighth. But yeah, Knoxville was good. Knoxville is just one of those tracks that it's super difficult. It's weird. It's hard to be fast there. It's easy to get around, and it's just really hard to have the speed that everybody else has. So it's been a good learning year for me, but hopefully next year we can put up results.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so hard when I can't imagine having that level of experience in your career and having to race against guys who have done it for 10, 15, 20 years on such a serious tour and at that level at such a young age. Like, It's really mind-boggling. You're so young into your career. All you've driven are sprint cars. All you know are sprint cars. Am I correct in saying that?
Pretty much, yeah.
So I gotta ask, if the opportunity presented itself, is there anything that you would like to jump into and at least maybe try for a race, whether it be late model, modified? Is there anything else that jumps out to you that you'd love to try and drive sometime if you got the chance?
Nothing really jumps out, but I did drive a modified one time. My cousin actually races modifieds and tried to drive her car. Couldn't get it in gear, but once we got going, it was all right. I actually really like them. I mean, they're kind of slow compared to what I race, but they're fun. You know, they're super heavy, so it's a completely different feeling than what I do. But I enjoy it. I would absolutely race a modified or a late model at some point. I'd love to do it, but I don't know if that opportunity will present itself, but hopefully.
And speaking of opportunities, you never know. It is midget season right now. What are your thoughts on maybe ever running the shootout or the chili bowl?
I've ran both of them. I'm not gonna lie, I don't miss the chili or the shootout at all. That race is not fun, but yeah, Chili Bowl's cool. I love Chili Bowl. It's one of my favorite races of the year. It's everybody's there, all your friends are there, everybody knows there. Every good race car driver is there. It's just a good race. The atmosphere is really good, and everything about it's awesome. And glad I found a ride. I didn't plan on racing it, but we'll be there now, so that's pretty awesome.
Well, Beef, I think it's time we put the kid to the test. I think it's time for ripping the top.
Yeah, so this is our segment we like to do in the show here, Landon. Basically, we've got two other guys that have done it so far. So basically, I'm going to shoot you 4 questions. They're all food and drink related, and you just got to answer them as fast as you can and try and beat your race director from this past season, Doug Leonard, who's got a 21.9. That's at the top of the leaderboard right now.
Okay.
So I'll just get my thing set up here.
Get your watch out. Get that stopwatch out, Beef. Nice and consistent. Remember, you're the one that's reading these questions.
We gotta keep it consistent. Doug said we gotta do technical inspections after this. So, but okay, so I'll count it down 3, 2, 1, and I'll start ripping the questions and just answer as fast as you can.
All right, lay them on me. All right. I'm ready.
3, 2, 1. Favorite beer or drink?
Can't answer. Oh well, Doctor.
Favorite truck stop snack and drink combo?
Reese's and Dr. Pepper.
Top 3 pizza toppings?
Ham, pepperoni, and sausage.
Favorite wing
vegetables.
flavor?
Honey barbecue or Asian zing from Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oof, that felt pretty good too.
It was close.
It was close.
23-6.
I stalled on the Dr. Pepper.
I feel like Beef.
I don't know. I didn't even think about the first question because you are technically are not legally allowed to drink.
That's why I was laughing. I'm like, oh, we're gonna have the 16-year-old on
Yeah.
years. This is good.
I knew that question was coming, so I had an answer prepared a while ago.
I mean, you're not
I
far.
think it worked out.
You weren't far off though. Like you're sitting second. So
I'm not
you know what? He
super
was
happy
really-
about getting beat by Doug, though.
yeah.
No, nobody wants to get beat by Doug. That's for sure.
It's
But
okay.
I will say you had really detailed answers, like to specifically name 2 different sauces from Buffalo Wild Wings was your favorite. Like you were nailed down on that.
I eat a lot. I have the good answers.
Fair enough. I mean, what's that routine kind of like when you're 16 years old and you're traveling with the tour and it's not. I can't imagine there's a lot of home cooked meals on the road for you guys as drivers.
A lot of Subway. Wendy's, Arby's. I ate there more than I have in my entire life. What really sucks, though, is I don't have a say in where we go. I kind of go wherever the truck goes. And I'm a big Taco Bell guy, so Taco Bell's like, when I get my hands on Taco Bell, it's a good day. So, but pretty much I ate the same 3 things every single week.
Fair enough. Now, outside of racing, I can't imagine you have a ton of time for hobbies or other particular interests, but is there anything that maybe race fans should know about you or things that you're interested in away from the racetrack that, maybe it's snowboarding, maybe it's some kind of other sports? What do you do when you're not doing something related to the sprint car world?
I play a lot of golf. probably not healthy amount. I spend way too much money on it. I play a lot of golf. Other than that, I don't really do much. I mean, I play iRacing, obviously, but not a lot. And for the most part, I just kind of talk to people. Kind of my day, go play golf, talk to people, and go to sleep. It's
What's your
pretty much
best
what I
round of
do.
golf?
Like at 85.
Ooh, nice.
Pretty
That's
good.
not
Better.
bad. I wish I was shooting 85 when I was 16. Damn.
Yeah, that's like a once in a blue moon.
Hey, they don't ask
I
how,
have
they just ask
fun.
how many.
So, we'll talk about looking into next year now in your 2025 season. Obviously, today it was announced that you're leaving the Jason Side 7S and you're going to race the 17 GP for Michael Dutcher Motorsports next year. What? How did that deal come about, Landon? And what is your guys' year maybe going to look like?
Yeah, it's gonna be a stacked year. I mean, we have plenty of races. As of right now, we're not gonna be committed to any series. Just running kind of an outlaw schedule. Run both. I do know our first trip will be the first high limit West Coast swing in March. I don't think we're going to Florida, but yeah, no, it's I'm looking forward to it. It should be a good year. It's gonna be a little weird. Michael's not super far into wing yet, and then obviously he's been racing longer than I've been alive, but on wing stuff. So it's gonna probably have its challenges, but I think it's gonna be a good year. I mean, I've been looking forward to it, and even throughout the year, I've kind of been thinking like, what would it be like to drive for Dutcher? I see him everywhere, and he's always had super nice stuff. So I'm looking forward to it. I think it's gonna work out nice.
How do you guys go about picking a schedule? Like you say, you're running that kind of a flexible schedule. I think I saw it was announced between 70 and 80 races kind of thing. Do you have any input as a driver? Is there any team communication saying, hey, how do you feel about going to this particular racetrack? Or are you just kind of wherever they put me is where I'm going to go race?
Yeah, I mean, I have an input in it, but kind of just want to stay out of it. I'm not super worried about it. I just want to race. Really, obviously, I want to run the bigger races, but it's it's not a super big deal to me. I like to race. I like going to California. I have a bunch of friends out there, and started making some new guys on the East Coast. Hopefully, I'll get to go to Williams Grove and some of those races. And other than that, I think we're going to be running a lot of the Central races. And then we're going to run the Texas swing, I'm pretty sure, with the Outlaws. Yeah, it's just a stacked year. I mean, you'll probably see us pretty much everywhere across the country. So it should be good.
Very cool. I'd like to get your opinion, on this news that maybe the All-Star Circuit of Champions are coming back. Do you think you guys maybe will follow that a little bit more closely as compared to like a full national tour? I mean, there hasn't been a schedule released yet, but if it's kind of the same as the All-Stars of before, would that be something maybe you guys are interested in?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, we've kind of entertained everything, really. That's the biggest thing is just waiting on the schedule, and I'm sure that'll come out probably this week at PRI or this next week at PRI. There's so many factors that go into it. How many races is it? What does it pay? Like, it's just everything. I mean, I think we will be at some of those races, but I'm not sure if I can say we'll be at all of them.
Fair enough. We have to ask too. It was two Canadian guys that were really jacked up about the news of World of Outlaws coming back north of the border. Do you have a passport, and are you thinking about, or is there a conversation about maybe we'll see you at Cornwall or at Oswego?
Well, it's starting to look like I'm gonna have to get one, but I really don't know yet. I don't know what the deal is. I mean, it's possible. It all just depends on what else is going on that day. If there's anything that pays good close. I mean, there's so much that goes into it. I don't really know. I mean, I would like to race in a different country. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, it's just too many factors, and kind of just see where time takes us.
Fair
Nice.
enough.
We'd love to see you come across the border. Oswego is a top tier facility to run at, and I know we race there weekly on Fridays, and I can't say enough good things about it.
I mean, I'm just again blown away by your composure, Landon. It's really impressive. Obviously being involved in local racing, we have our fair share of younger drivers that end up on different series, especially obviously in our center steer modifieds. It seems like a great entry point for sportsmen or modifieds for younger guys to get into it. Where do you kind of attribute that maturity and being able to poise and handle yourself to it? Is it coming from that racing background and having the experience of being the son of a guy who did this for, I think you said your dad was at it, what, 30 plus years, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to like pinpoint something like that, but I think the biggest factor is I've never really been around people my age. It's always been adult. Everything we've done's kind of been professional. I mean, we've never we've never really done anything as a hobby like that. And it's just kind of the people that I'm around, everything's corporate here, and it's just kind of the way you have to be, it's the way of the world for me anymore. Kind of wish I could still be a normal 16-year-old and go do normal things, but I prefer having a job making money that most 16-year-olds won't see for a long time. I just, it's just the way that my life's gone, and I just have to embrace it.
Yeah, absolutely. One last one from me here, and I guess it's a good one to kind of maybe put a bow on. What are your career goals? Like when you look back on your racing legacy, however many years down the line it gets, what are some trophies that you want to have on in your trophy case? What are some things that you want to be able to say you've done, you've won? What's on that bucket list in terms of career goals?
I get asked that question a lot, and I never really have a good answer for it. I mean, obviously you want to win all the big races, but that's not really everything. For me, I'm more worried about being stable by the time I'm done racing. I don't want to race till I'm 60, and that's the biggest thing for me. It's you want to do good, but it's a career too, and you have to make it that. You're not going to race forever, so you want to do the most you can in a short period of time. And for me, I feel like having those goals isn't going to benefit me any. I just, you got to race every single night, like, you're there to win a championship or race like it's a Knoxville Nationals, especially with, the outlaw guys, high limit guys. They're at the best they're ever going to be every night. And that's the biggest thing for me right now, at least, is just, I mean, maybe by the time, if I do start winning outlaw races consistently or high limit races, whatever, then I can start, getting those, goals that I want to win races and where I want to be. But right now it's kind of just, put everything together, get myself where I want to be, physically and mentally, and just make myself well built before I start getting to that point.
Awesome, man. I think that was a good one to end it off on there, Jonathan. Landon, thanks for coming on, buddy, and giving us your story and talking about your racing career thus far. We're excited to see how you do in this new ride in the 2025 season, and we'll be looking for you out there, buddy.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.